You think this city is standing still? It isn't. Every light around you, every building, every street is being held in place by systems that cannot stop, even briefly, without the environment pushing back. This place does not exist because it is stable. It exists because instability is being corrected faster than you can see. And the city you're watching this from is no exception. Most of us live with the quiet assumption that the cities we inhabit are extensions of the geography they sit upon. But if you look closely at the energy requirements and mechanical interventions necessary to keep a modern metropolitan area from reverting to its natural state, you realize that we have moved past the era of settlement and into an era of permanent correction. In the past, a city was a response to the landscape, a gathering of people in a place where the water was accessible, the soil was firm, and the climate was tolerable. But today, a city is often a defiance of the landscape, a complex arrangement of matter held in a state of artificial equilibrium through a sheer volume of effort that must be applied every second of every day. It is a performance, not a trait. This distinction between a stable city and a stabilized one is the fundamental hinge upon which our modern civilization turns, and yet it remains almost entirely invisible to the millions of people who move through these spaces, precisely because the correction is so successful that it creates the illusion of stillness. We perceive the concrete as solid and the grid as fixed, but in reality, these systems are in a state of constant high-speed motion, correcting for stresses that the land itself can no longer absorb on its own. These places do not exist because they are stable. They exist because instability is constantly corrected faster than it can accumulate. This channel keeps returning to places like this, where the systems shaping everyday life are so effective, most people stop noticing them. The first category of the stabilized city is defined by its vertical relationship to the environment, specifically those places that exist physically below the level of the surrounding water or gravity-fed systems, requiring a mechanical override that effectively replaces the natural drainage of the earth with a series of artificial hearts. When we look at a place like New Orleans or the low-lying polders of the Netherlands, we are not looking at land in the traditional sense, but at a volume of exclusion, a space where the environment has been told to stay out through the use of massive, energy-intensive pumping systems that must run without interruption. The pumps are the correction. In these environments, the city is not a static object resting on a foundation, but a buoyancy experiment that requires a constant expenditure of power to prevent the surrounding sea from reclaiming its territory. This is the mechanical override, a condition where the city has bypassed the natural limits of its elevation and replaced them with a mechanical dependency that is so deeply integrated into the infrastructure that the residents no longer hear the hum of the turbines that make their sleep possible. We have created vast urban basins that are structurally incapable of existing without a secondary, hidden city of machinery that works in the dark to maintain a dry surface that the landscape itself no longer provides. In Tokyo, this override takes the form of the GCANS project, a subterranean cathedral of concrete silos designed to swallow the overflow of a landscape that has been so paved and sealed that it can no longer drink the rain. These are not just tunnels. They are the city's artificial lungs, breathing in the excess energy of a storm and holding it until the machines can safely exhale it back into the sea. This is the first pillar of the modern stabilized city, the realization that we can inhabit spaces that are physically wrong for human density, provided we are willing to build a second, invisible city to correct the first one's mistakes. The second category moves from the mechanical to the metabolic, focusing on cities that exist entirely outside the capacity of their local environment to sustain them. creating a condition where the city survives not by what the land provides, but by what it can import from thousands of miles away. This is the input gap, a structural reality for places like Singapore or Dubai, where the natural carrying capacity of the land, the water, the food, the thermal regulation is virtually zero, and the city's existence is entirely a function of its ability to reach out across the globe and pull in the resources it lacks. The land is a spectator. In a naturally stable settlement, the local environment acts as a buffer. If the rains fail, the city adjusts, but in a city defined by an input gap, there is no buffer to be found in the sand or the salt water. The stability is entirely external, resting on a global network of logistics and energy flows that are so complex and so efficient that we have forgotten how unnatural it is to drink desalinated water in a desert or eat fresh greens in a city of stone. We have decoupled the city from the land, turning the urban environment into a processor of distant resources rather than a product of the local soil. This category reveals the hidden fragility of the stabilized world because it shows that a city can be perfectly functional, wealthy, and peaceful while being utterly disconnected from the physical reality of its own coordinate. The correction here is not a pump or a levee, but a supply chain, a continuous high-speed flow of matter and energy that must remain in motion for the city to maintain its internal equilibrium. If the flow pauses, the city does not just slow down, it immediately enters a state of metabolic deficit because the land underneath it has no memory of how to support that many lives. The third category of stabilization is perhaps the most unsettling because it involves cities that are moving on a human timescale, while the geology underneath them is moving on a much slower and often opposing trajectory. This is geological lag, a condition most clearly seen in Mexico City, where the sheer weight of 20 million people and the extraction of the groundwater they require has caused the city to sink faster than the land can structurally adjust. The city is outrunning the earth. In this scenario, the correction is a frantic, ongoing race to repair the snapping infrastructure that occurs when a rigid city of concrete is placed on top of a shifting, subsiding lakebed. The pipes break because the city is falling faster than the plumbing was designed to handle, and the cathedrals tilt because the foundations are being reclaimed by the soft earth at an uneven rate. This is not a disaster in the cinematic sense. It is a maintenance reality, a permanent state of repair where the goal is simply to keep the city's functionality ahead of the land's subsidence. This reveals a fundamental truth about modern stabilization. We are operating at a speed that geology cannot follow. We build in decades, but the Earth responds in centuries, and the friction between those two speeds creates a maintenance debt that must be paid in perpetuity. We have replaced the solid foundation of the ancient world with a dynamic foundation where the city is essentially a slow-motion ship at sea, requiring constant adjustments to its hull just to stay level on a surface that refuses to be still. The final category is the most abstract, but also the most critical, the threshold of energy density, where a city's complexity reaches a point where it can only survive as long as it has access to a massive, uninterrupted flow of high-grade energy. This is the life support threshold, where the environment, whether it be the extreme cold of a polar city or the extreme heat of the desert, is so hostile that the city's internal weather is the only thing keeping the population alive. Complexity requires a heartbeat. In these environments, stability is a function of the power grid, and the correction is the thermal management of the air itself. If you were to look at a thermal map of Phoenix, Arizona in the peak of summer, you would see a city that is literally a heat island, a place where the concrete and asphalt have absorbed so much energy that the night no longer offers a reprieve. The city survives only because we have the energy to push that heat out of our homes and into the streets, a process that actually makes the external environment more hostile, even as it stabilizes the internal one. This is the ultimate expression of the stabilized city, a place that has used energy to create its own climate, effectively building a habitat that is independent of the planet's rhythms. But this habitat has no natural inertia. It has no way to coast. It is a bicycle that only stays upright as long as the pedals are moving, a system that has traded the buffer of the natural world for the precision of the mechanical world, leaving it with a margin for error that is measured in hours rather than seasons. Once you understand these four categories, mechanical override, input gap, geological lag, and energy density, you stop looking at the world as a collection of places and start looking at it as a collection of operating states. You realize that the peace and stability of our daily lives are not gifts from the land, but are achievements of the correction process, a continuous and exhausting effort to hold back the tendencies of a planet that is constantly trying to return to its own equilibrium. Stability is an act of will. It is a profound realization that changes how you interpret every bridge, every pipe, and every power line you see. They are no longer features of the city, but are the braces holding the city together. We have built a civilization that is remarkably resilient, but it is a resilience of action, not a resilience of being. We are like a person standing on one leg. We look perfectly still, but every muscle in our body is firing in a microscopic sequence to prevent us from falling over. This is why most cities are not stable. They are stabilized. They exist because the correction has not stopped yet, and because we have become so good at performing this stabilization that we have forgotten it is even happening. We have mistaken the performance for the ground, and in doing so, we have lost sight of the fundamental relationship between the human project and the physical limits of the world we inhabit. This is not a story about the end of the world, nor is it a warning about the fragility of our society. Rather, it is a description of the new normal of the human species, a recognition that we have moved into a phase of development where we are the primary geological and environmental force in our own lives. We have taken the responsibility of stability away from the Earth and placed it on our own shoulders, creating a world that is more capable, more dense, and more impressive than anything that came before, but also a world that is more high maintenance than we ever dared to imagine. The city is an ongoing decision. Every morning that the water flows, the lights turn on, and the streets remain dry is a morning where the correction was successful, where the systems operated exactly as they were designed to, and where the discrepancy between the land and the city was managed for another 24 hours. We should not view this with fear, but with a deep, systemic respect for the sheer volume of intelligence and effort required to maintain the illusion of stillness in a world that is always in motion. When we look at the ruins of history, we often assume that they failed because they were weak, but perhaps the truth is simply that they reached the limit of their ability to correct for the land they occupied, leaving behind a silence that eventually reclaimed the space they had borrowed. Our cities are different because our corrections are more powerful, our energy is more dense, and our systems are more integrated. But the underlying equation remains the same. Permanence is something we do, not something we find. The performance continues. The next time you look at your city, don't just see the buildings. See the correction that keeps them there. See the pumps, the power lines, and the logistics, and realize that you are not just living in a place, but in a process, a beautiful, fragile, and relentless process of holding the world in place. And for now, the performance is still going on.